A guy's life takes a nosedive when he's spending a romantic moment with his girlfriend. After they're done, Karen tells him she's going to take a shower. Yukon waits for her while she heads to the bathroom. He lies on the bed, upside down, feeling great. Staying the whole night in a hotel feels like the best thing ever to him. Karen is his first girlfriend since starting college. She's brave, cute, and someone he really loves. While he's lying there thinking about her, his phone buzzes. He grabs it to check, but realizes it's not his. It's Karen's phone. At first, he thinks it might be his mom, but he remembers he already told her he'd be out for the night. Things get weird when he sees a message from a guy named Daku. The guy is asking Karen how she's doing and if she's free to meet. Yukon is shocked. He opens her phone to check the messages. Karen had told Daku she just got there and said she wanted to meet him too. Yukon can't believe it. He's furious and confused, wondering who this guy is and why Karen is talking to him. As he keeps scrolling, Yukon sees Daku saying he's happy and asking Karen if she be his. Yukon recognizes the name Kamokura Tetsuya, a senior from his high school. Kamokura is dating Tuko Sakurajima, the most beautiful girl in their university. But here, he is messaging Karen. Yukon keeps reading her messages and realizes Karen has been meeting Kamakura once a week. Yukon feels betrayed. He can't understand why this guy, who already has Tuko, also wants Karen. Angry and hurt, he leaves the hotel. Karen comes out of the shower ready to continue their evening, but Yukon is already gone. As Yukon walks, he starts piecing things together. He remembers how Karen used to make excuses to avoid spending time with him. She'd say she had plans with friends, was meeting her mom, or had to finish a school report. Now it's clear, those were all lies. She was using those excuses to meet Kamakura. While walking, Yukon gets lost in his thoughts and accidentally bumps into someone. The guy he bumps into yells at him to watch where he's going, and his girlfriend looks startled. Yukon doesn't say much and just keeps walking. He walks far away from the hotel to clear his mind. Eventually, he sits down by the river, trying to process everything. He thinks about Kamakura and can't believe a guy with such a beautiful girlfriend would still cheat. Then an idea hits him. If they did this to him, maybe it's fair to give them a taste of their own medicine. Feeling a spark of revenge, he pulls out his phone and calls Tuko Sakurajima at nearly 11 p.m. She's working on some notes when she answers. Yukon tells her what's going on and what he's thinking, though it's clear he's acting out of frustration. Later, Yukon meets his friend Ishida Yuta and explains everything. Ishida is shocked. He asks if Yukon has lost his mind, especially since he involved Tuko, the campus queen, in this mess. Yukon tries to explain, saying he only found out about Karen's cheating and didn't know how to handle it. Ishida feels bad for him. He asks about Tuko and Yukon, says he apologized to her right away for dragging her into it. She'd asked him why he said such a crazy thing, knowing he wasn't the type to act like that. At first, Yukon didn't want to explain, but she insisted. Eventually, he told her everything, venting his anger and frustration while crying. He wasn't sure she'd understand, but she listened to him until the end. She told him to calm down and reassured him that they'd talk more the next day. She also told him not to share this with anyone else for now. Ishida listens carefully and says he's glad Yukon shared it with him since they're best friends. Ishida jokes about wondering why Yukon called him in the middle of the night, but says it's good that he got everything off his chest. Ishida promises not to tell anyone and says Yukon doesn't have to handle this alone. Then teasingly, he asks Yukon to cover the cost of the steak he ordered this late. Ishida asks what Yukon plans to do next, but Yukon admits he has no idea. Ishida asks if he'll try to be with Tuko, but Yukon says no, it wouldn't be right. Ishida agrees, saying he figured Yukon wouldn't go through with it. Then Ishida asks if Yukon has proof to show Tuko that her boyfriend is cheating. Yukon shows him screenshots of the messages he saved on his phone. Ishida feels bad, saying it must have been painful to read all that. He asks how Yukon got into Karen's phone, and Yukon admits he used her ex's birthday as the pin. Ishida gets mad, saying he won't judge Yukon for what he did, but he should think carefully about the best way and time to show the proof to Tuko. Even calm people can lose it in situations like this, and they need to be careful. The next day starts. Yukon is sitting in the cafeteria, drinking juice. He looks at the time on his watch and realizes it's almost time to meet Sakurajima at the cafe, which is far from the university. He hopes it's okay. He starts worrying because it would be bad if anyone sees them meeting alone at a cafe far from school. Everyone knows that Tuko-senpai and Kamakura are a famous couple at the university. But then he grinds his teeth. He wonders why he has to worry about it. He's not the one at fault. After waiting a long time, Sakurajima finally shows up. She apologizes for making him wait. She tells him she arrived 5 minutes ago and sits down in front of him. Yukon feels awkward. He apologizes to her for what happened yesterday. He says it was in the heat of the moment, and that's why he said some crazy things. Sakurajima says there's no need to worry, and she wants to hear about Tetsuya and Karen's affair. Yukon explains everything. She asks him if he has proof to back up his story. Yukon looks at her and notices she's calm. He wonders if it's the right time to show the proof, but then he tells himself that he'll be okay. He shows her the pictures of their conversations. Sakurajima looks at them for a while. After realizing Yukon is telling the truth, she puts the phone down on the table. She thanks him for showing it to her. She says it looks like it's real and she hates just sitting here and accepting it. She asks if that's why he asked her to do the same with them. Yukon apologizes because he can't do it. Sakurajima says she can't do it either, and she gives him 3 reasons. The first one is that she doesn't know if it's real evidence of their relationship. Yukon gets angry and says he has the pictures of the messages they send each other. Sakurajima replies that she's been told lies before by people trying to ruin her relationship. She doesn't think Karen can pull off something that complicated. Then she gives the second reason. if she and Yukon were having a relationship, there wouldn't be any reason to blame them. She says if the relationship is real, then she'll break up with Tetsuya, but she doesn't want Yukon to say that she also had a relationship. Yukon listens to her and says he understands. She asks if he isn't frustrated having to deal with all of this. Yukon says he is, and he doesn't want things to be like this. Then she mentions her third reason. She says she can't forgive Tetsuya easily. She wants to make him regret this until he wants to come back to her. Even if he breaks up with her, he'll still be with Karen. So she wants him to regret it so much that he'll never even think about it again. After saying all this, she apologizes to Yukon for getting carried away. Then she tells him she wants real proof first. Yukon asks angrily what she means by real proof, and she says she wants a photo of them going to a hotel and spending the night together. Yukon asks if she's thinking of taking this to court, and she explains that Tetsuya lives with his brother, so they can only meet at a hotel. Yukon says that would limit the frequency of their meetings, and she must have noticed that in the message history. Sakurajima says she can't just calmly check like that. She asks how he can talk about payback with that kind of attitude. She explains that they know for sure they've met 3 times since Karen mentioned seeing him once a week. The dates match too. She finishes classes late, then there's summer vacation and weekends. They seem to prioritize those times. They don't want anyone to ask where they're going, so they definitely didn't do anything during the summer break. Yukon is impressed by her after hearing this, and he says she's like a detective. She says the chances are high on Mondays or Thursdays, and she'll be looking into Tetsuya's schedule. They can't act rashly because if they do, Karen will find out. Then she asks him to tell her if Karen mentioned any place she didn't go with him or if she doesn't want to be with him. Sakurajima tells him to use his social network to stay in touch and warns him to be careful with his research. They can't act on it until they're sure. She says if they're going to be together, they need undeniable proof. She also tells him that doesn't mean she's not going to be loyal to him and that he shouldn't misunderstand her. Yukon stays silent for a moment, thinking about how strong she is. He was making a mess and saying terrible things yesterday. Then she tells him she wants to believe in Tetsuya, which is why she needs to see it with her own eyes. Yukon realizes there's no way she's calm. They've both been betrayed by someone they care about, someone they were supposed to trust. But even in this situation, Tuko-senpai stays strong instead of crying or getting upset. Yukon tells himself not to be a coward and that he needs to support her. They both get up and leave. Yukon thanks her for everything, finally opening his eyes. He hopes they'll get along as friends. She says it sounds good and shakes his hand, saying it will be a pleasure to be with him. Yukon feels like he's not alone. He has senpai's support, but they need to get things ready first. If they're not prepared, the lies will keep coming up. They remind themselves they need solid proof before they can move forward and confront them. Yukon met Karen in a club right after joining the university. He once told her that their eyes meant a lot, but he wasn't sure if it was just him or if she noticed too. Karen then told him it wasn't just him, that she liked him a little too. He got drawn to her and thought she felt the same way. He believed she was the one for him. 3 months ago, Yukon and Karen were at an arcade playing a game. He tried to win a teddy bear for her, and after a few tries, he finally got it. She was really impressed, and he told her that he was pretty good at winning. Karen thought it was cute and thanked him for getting the teddy bear. While walking home from the arcade, Yukon thought maybe it would have been better if she had a bag to carry it in, but she said it was fine. She kept playing with the bear, and Yukon thought Karen must have always dreamed of going home from the arcade with something they won. Since he wasn't good at claw machines, he couldn't win one himself, but she was always thankful for what he could get her. Seeing her happy made him happy too. She asked where they were going next, and he told her they were going for dinner. She said that as long as she was with Yukon, everything was fun. When he started university, it was all about finding out who would win the title of Miss Judo University. Everyone was so excited about it, and life went on. Yukon sat with his friends one day and they teased him, asking if they were a couple. He told them they had misunderstood, asking if they didn't know that university students were supposed to understand the difference between respect and love. One of his friends said that now that he had a girlfriend, he was acting so full of himself, and that they were just jealous. Then his friend said that Karen's parents would be away this weekend so she wouldn't have to go home. Yukon thought this meant they would go to a hotel. His friends kept teasing him, and Yukon thought that this was the happiest time of his life, until he found out that Karen was seeing someone else. Karen met up with him, and they went out. She asked him if he had been cutting corners lately. She said that it was always the same places, arcade, karaoke, and a family restaurant at the end. She asked if he was planning to become a regular there, and he said it made sense since they were students. Karen then got a little angry, saying that she was starting to feel like they were just going on boring dates. She said that other people went on fancier dates, and she couldn't feel any of his efforts to make her happy. Yukon reminded her that she had once said that as long as she was with him, anywhere would be fun. She said that was true when they first started dating, but things had changed. She told him that he was always the same, and that she felt like she was just being used. She asked if he even cared about her. Yukon thought about it and realized that recently, she had been looking at her phone a lot when they were together. She had said it was because of a game she was addicted to, but Yukon wasn't sure anymore. He felt like it was clear who wasn't caring, but he couldn't say it to her. So he apologized and told her that he got a message saying a friend from his hometown had gotten into an accident, so he had to go. He wasn't trying to make up for anything, but he promised he would make a reservation at a better restaurant next time. Yukon asked her if she had any other requests, and she said that when someone asks that, it doesn't mean anything anymore. Yukon agreed, saying he would think of something that would make her happy. He asked how about next Thursday, but Karen said she had a part-time job that day, so he would have to pick another day. Yukon then met Sakurajima on Thursday. He told her Karen said she had a part-time job, and he asked her what about Tetsuya. Sakurajima said that Tetsuya had told her he was busy, but she wasn't sure yet if they would meet. Yukon said that it was obvious they would meet, but he could tell she didn't want to face the reality. To change the subject, Yukon said that it seemed like Karen wasn't interested in him anymore, and Sakurajima asked if something had happened. She also asked if Yukon even cared about her. Yukon said that Karen didn't like how their dates had become boring, and Sakurajima asked him where he usually went with Karen. He told her they usually went to a coffee shop, then an arcade or karaoke, sometimes to the movies, and then they walked around the city before having a meal at a family restaurant. Even after all that, Karen said she didn't feel like he cared. Sakurajima thought for a moment and then said that when you're with someone you like, anywhere can be fun. At first, everything is new and fresh and it feels special, but after a while, when it becomes routine, the excitement fades. She asked if it wasn't natural that this had happened after they'd been going out for a while. Yukon got upset and said that Karen told him other people went on fancier dates, and he asked her who she thought those people were. Sakurajima told him not to worry about it because, even without considering the unfaithfulness, she felt like Tetsuya was hiding something from her. She stood up and said they needed to make sure, and Yukon didn't understand what she meant. He asked what they were going to do about it. Sakurajima asked him what he had told Karen, and Yukon said he wanted to ask her what she was doing, but he didn't want to raise any suspicions. Instead, he told her he would make a reservation at a nice restaurant for her birthday. Sakurajima was surprised and asked when it was, and Yukon said it was this Saturday. She seemed shocked, so Yukon asked her what was wrong. She told him she had been invited to stay the night. Yukon asked if Tetsuya didn't live with his brother, and Sakurajima said he was on a work trip, which was rare. She said he had been stubborn about it. Then she told Yukon that she hadn't properly answered yet, but if she said no, Tetsuya would call Karen. Sakurajima then decided that they would meet on Saturday, and that would be it for today. Yukon offered to see her home, but she refused, saying she would get a taxi. She told him to make sure to book the restaurant for lunch and be vague about his evening plans. She also told him to create an opening for himself and walked away. Yukon thought that Senpai had made up her mind and he had to face it too. He took out his phone and made a reservation. Meanwhile, Karen was talking to Senpai and thanked him for the necklace, saying she was really happy about it. He said he was glad she liked it. Karen mentioned that he had good taste, unlike Yukon. She said she would wear it next time they met, and he said he was looking forward to it and wished her good night. Sakurajima overheard the conversation and asked who he was talking to, and he said it was just a friend. Karen, on the other hand, was thinking she should use the necklace stand she wasn't using, so she took it out and put the necklace on it. She placed the stand next to the teddy bear Yukon had gotten her and thought it was really cute. Yukon takes Karen to a restaurant he booked for her birthday. Karen asks if this is the place he booked, and he says he wanted to spoil her since it's her birthday. She doesn't react the way he expects, so he asks if she likes it. She says it's not that and suggests they go inside. They sit at their table, and the manager asks if they want something to drink. Yukon orders, but Karen asks why he only ordered one glass. She says they're underage and would prefer if, as her boyfriend, he ordered a whole bottle with a presentation, like one from the year she was born. Yukon laughs it off, saying he's not that fancy, but Karen rudely disagrees. He asks what she just said, and she brushes it off. He thinks it's hard to make things right once she goes quiet. She's acting more difficult today, and he apologizes, telling her he got her a present. Just then, the manager brings their drinks, and Karen says it's really good, so for now she's looking forward to the primo piatto. Yukon asks what that is, and she explains that in an Italian meal, the first course is antipasto, then comes the primo piatto with pasta, followed by the second piatto with the main dish, and finally, dulce for dessert. She says the primo piatto takes time, so she also explains that in Japanese meals, rice is served last, but in Italy, it comes with the main course. Yukon is impressed and asks how she knows all that. She says it's obvious, but adds that he doesn't seem to know anything. Yukon thinks it sounds like something someone else told her. Maybe he's just overthinking, but if he hadn't noticed things earlier, he'd probably think it was cute and let it slide. Karen then mentions that the main course might not be as good as expected and suggests French food would have been better. Yukon tells himself not to overthink it, like Senpai said. This could be a misunderstanding or just a prank. He decides to trust her for her birthday and enjoy the night. The manager brings dessert, and Karen asks if she can order a canalo. She explains that it's an Italian fried sweet, and this place is famous for it. Yukon says she sure knows a lot and asks if she's been here before. Karen says she saw it in a magazine, trying to cover up. Yukon orders it for her and says he's going to show her her present. She opens it and finds a wallet. Yukon says she mentioned wanting it before, and she thanks him. He thinks her smile is the same as before and wonders if she's being selfish. But if he looks at it as the other side of love, maybe he misunderstood. Yukon asks what her plans are after this. Karen says her friends from her hometown are coming to celebrate, so she has to head home. Yukon thinks he already knows and texts Sakurajima that he just split up with Karen and is heading to Kinshiko. Sakurajima says she'll keep Tetsuya occupied for a bit longer. Yukon rents a car and picks her up. He asks how the apartment looks, and Karen says no one's been in or out since she arrived. Yukon asks about Kamakura Senpai, and she says his microwave is broken, so he's out buying a new one. Yukon then says if they'd met up right after she left, they'd already be here. She says she doesn't know and suggests they take it easy tomorrow as it's a day off. Yukon wonders if that's really the case, and Sakurajima hands him a sandwich, since it looks like they'll be here a while. They wait in the car, and Yukon asks if they'll really show up. Sakurajima tells him to focus. They move to the back seat to get better view, and Sakurajima takes out a camera she borrowed from a friend. Yukon says her phone is fine, but she wants better pictures to make sure she wins. He wonders what Senpai plans to do if they get proof. They keep watching and eventually see a shadow approaching the car. Karen tells Tetsuya the bar is boring and she doesn't go there often, but today's special because it's her birthday. Yukon tells Sakurajima to start filming them, capturing every moment they're close. He thinks it's proof, but Sakurajima says it's not enough. Yukon gets angry and tells her to face the reality of the situation. Sakurajima says they need more proof. Just this could be explained away as just having tea together or looking a certain way from the angle. They need to show they were in that room for at least 2 hours. Sakurajima says she'll do the rest and tells Yukon he can go home. He says he'll stay a bit longer because they need to be thorough. Sakurajima asks if he was with Karen during the day and what they did. Yukon says they ate different things and he gave her a designer wallet. They also walked around shops and went to the arcade. Sakurajima asks if there's an Italian restaurant in Shibuya, and Yukon shows her a picture of it. He says it's famous for cannoli and Karen told him about it. Sakurajima says Tetsuya took her there before and they enjoyed it. Yukon asks why she started dating Tetsuya and if it's true that he was popular in high school and he was in the band at the school festival. Sakurajima says Tetsuya could get attention from anyone, no matter their gender. She says she felt like she couldn't compare back then, but people shouldn't choose others just because they're famous. She liked how Tetsuya approached her, and although she rejected him at first, she eventually gave in. She says he's a lonely person, always at the center of attention, but without anyone really supporting him. That's why she wanted to be there for him. Sakurajima then asks Yukon if Karen is cute, since she's also popular. Yukon asks if she's not the top beauty at their university. Sakurajima says that being beautiful and cute are different. Cute girls are more popular with guys. Yukon doesn't know who would win, and Sakurajima tells him the cute one will win because beauty is about a face without faults, but cute appeals to people's hearts. She says that since middle school, she's been called beautiful, but cute girls always outshine her. Yukon says she's not losing at all, but she says she wants to be cute too, though she has her personality. She starts to cry. Yukon can't stand seeing her upset, so he hugs her, telling her it's not weird. He's always thought she was cool, reliable, and strong, and he apologizes for never saying so before. He tells her it's okay to lean on others sometimes. Yukon thinks Senpai has been hurt more than him. He's sure about it. All he can do is tell her to forget about Tetsuya. He promises to protect her, and she says that if it's him, she trusts him. She asks him to always be there for her, while he holds her trembling shoulders and steels himself to protect her. He tells her they should stay together tonight, and everything fades into the darkness of the night. Yukon tells his best friend everything that happened, and his friend can't believe it. His friend asks if Yukon really stayed at the apartment until the last train, and the senpai crying and then saw her off to her house. Yukon says that's what any decent person would do. Then he tells his friend that Tuko-senpai isn't just some girl to conquer. There's no way he'd take advantage of her when she's vulnerable. His friend says real women are a real pain when it comes to that. Just then, some other friends show up. Nakazaki-san approaches them and asks if she can sit with them, since they're also about to eat lunch. Ishida says it's fine, and Nakazaki asks if it's okay here even though it's a bit far. Meanwhile, Yukon is glaring at her with anger, and then Nakazaki says she was looking for them. She asks them to make the leaflets for the refreshment booth for next month's school festival. Ishida asks if it's not the second year's Suzuki-senpai's job to do that. The guy says his girlfriend was cheating on him, so he's not going to make them. Nakazaki says she just switched to a better guy. Ishida says it's exactly because his mind is in pieces after being dumped. Tetsuya says that's a harsh way to put it, and there's no need to be like that. He says that to pass on superior genes, males pursue many females and the females pick the best ones. This is what's called survival of the fittest. Yukon says humans have a sense of ethics and morals. Tetsuya says there's nothing more ambiguous than ethics and asks Yukon if he's heard of something in game theory. He talks about how 2 prisoners are interrogated in isolated rooms. If both stay silent, they serve 2 years. If one confesses, the one who confesses is released, but the silent one serves 10 years. If both confess, they both serve 5 years. The prisoners debate whether to stay silent or confess. One of them asks if it's better to confess, to avoid serving 10 years for staying silent, because love is the same. If the partner is going to be disloyal, then the other might as well be too. However, if betrayal isn't handled properly, it just leads to more problems. Nakazaki tells Tetsuya to stop, saying he gets misunderstood when he talks like this. Tetsuya says pioneers and game changers are always seen as enemies by the masses. Yukon says he didn't expect him to justify it so boldly. Yukon is getting angry because Tetsuya's way of thinking is just messed up. Yukon and Ishida leave. Ishida says he's really looking forward to seeing what happens next. He asks Yukon if this isn't going to make Tetsuya regret his actions, especially since Tuko-senpai witnessed the disloyalty. All that's left is to go ahead with it. Yukon says Tetsuya hasn't given any details yet. Senpai said that if they were to be like Tetsuya, it would be better to confront them with solid evidence. Ishida says it's just him. But when Yukon finally gets conclusive evidence, how would Tetsuya react if he saw Tuko-senpai being stolen away right in front of him by another man? Ishida smiles and says it'll be a masterpiece to see the unflappable Tetsuya lose it. He tells Yukon that it's a good chance to heal old wounds with a new one and encourages him to go for it. Yukon says it's not a game. He goes home and checks his old messages with Karen. He wonders if she thinks his feelings are fading. He remembers she told him on her birthday that she was meeting her friends from her hometown. He's fed up and doesn't know what to do. He still hasn't said anything. He keeps thinking and then calls Senpai to ask something. He asks about the trip, and Karen says it might be during next month's long weekend. She mentions that Tetsuya said he might go on a trip with a buddy from his middle school club, but wasn't specific. It seems like Karen is more into it. Sakurajima says she thinks so too. She says since she found out Tetsuya isn't loyal, she has no intention of keeping the relationship going. Yukon says he feels the same way. So about the plan they talked about, they'll do it on Christmas Eve. Yukon asks if she's planning to do it after 2 months and whether that's fast or slow. He asks for more details and she says the first thing is to make him fall for her even more, to the point that he becomes dependent on her. Then she'll wait until he can't stand being apart from her, and she'll strike when it hurts the most. Yukon asks if that's on Christmas Eve, and she asks if he knows his circle is throwing a party that day. He says he heard rumors that they go all out every year even before entering university. They book a whole restaurant for it. She says that at this party she'll expose the disloyalty and announce that their relationship is over. She thinks both Tetsuya and Karen are sensitive to what people think of them. By doing this, there's no bigger reward for them. She says she'll talk to him more about it tomorrow and ends the call. Yukon thinks Sakurajima came up with something even harsher than he expected. Just like Senpai said, Karen's need for social approval is strong and Kamakura Senpai is also quite prideful. He thinks that if this works, they'll cause a lot of damage. After thinking for a bit, he motivates himself and says he'll make them regret it so much that they'll wish they never got together. The next day, Yukon shows the draft for the leaflet to Nakozaki-san. Nakozaki-san appreciates his work and asks if this is his first school festival. Yukon says it's fun, and he's looking forward to it. While they're talking, Tetsuya enters the room and tells Nakozaki-san that the next class is cancelled, so they should go eat. Nakozaki tells Yukon he'll leave now, and Yukon tells Tetsuya that their conversation earlier was interesting. He says it's true that those who betray may benefit, but the prisoner's situation assumes that cooperation benefits both sides. Yukon says that if it were him, he'd choose to cooperate, and Tetsuya says that's just how it is. Everyone has their own view of righteousness as they embarrass themselves. At university, Sakurajima asks Tetsuya where he's going with his club buddies on their trip. He says nothing is decided yet, but it might happen. She gets a bit serious and he asks if she doesn't like the idea of him going. He tells her if that's the case, he'll cancel. She says it's not that, just curious, and tells him not to worry about it. She says he can go and enjoy himself, and he tells her she's really sweet. Sakurajima waits for Yukon, but he's late. When he shows up, he apologizes and brings her a coffee. She offers to pay him back, but he says it's no big deal, and that he should thank her for picking such a nice spot. She says she'll consider it a loan, and they sit down together. She then mentions that if they're too close to the university, people might see them. Yukon thinks she's being careful. She tells him 2 things are bothering her about Christmas Eve, and Yukon asks what they are. She says most of the members will attend the party, and she's worried about what revealing things might do to the event. She asks him if that's okay, and he says he's been thinking the same thing. That's why they'll use a secret reveal. Sakurajima asks what that means, and he explains it's for things like unrequited love confessions or joking breakups. They'll make it part of the event. She agrees they shouldn't discuss it beforehand, so they'll need to plan carefully. She then asks how they should prepare, and he says they'll figure it out. Then she asks if he's friends with Ishida-kun, and he says they've known each other since middle school. She says that's exactly what they need. She asks if he can invite Ishida next time, and he wonders if she really wants to involve him. She says not just Ishida, but also a friend she trusts. Yukon asks who it is, and she tells him it's a girl named Kanu from the economics department, someone from a different high school. She plans to bring her into their group. Yukon asks what she's trying to do, and she says they'll increase their allies, so no matter what Tetsuya and Karen-san do on Christmas Eve, they can handle it. Yukon wonders if it'll go that smoothly, especially with Karen being popular with boys and Tetsuya with girls. She tells him they need to prepare and talk to both of them. Yukon agrees to try talking to Ishida. She asks about his other concern, and he says he's not sure about Tetsuya, but it will be hard to make Karen depend on him. He adds that it's his problem, not hers. She says it's a big problem because it could solve half of their issue. Yukon understands but seems discouraged. She asks if he's not confident, and he says no. Just looking at their messages makes him feel like her feelings are fading. Sakurajima puts her coffee down and asks to see the messages. He shows them to her, and she notices it's been 3 months since they started dating. She says it's around the time when things start cooling off. She asks him how he felt about Karen before all of this, and he says that she was his first girlfriend, and even when she was a little selfish, he didn't mind. He admits he was crazy about her, but the pain of being betrayed won't go away quickly. Yukon says he's only talking about feelings, not excusing Karen's behavior. Sakurajima thinks about it for a moment and then says if he thought it wasn't something he could bear, wouldn't there have been times she felt the same way? All those little things probably added up. It's the same with her and Tetsuya. If they don't do something soon, Karen-san could just drift away and things might end naturally. Then Sakurajima asks Yukon why he thinks Karen is still with him and hiding her disloyalty. She's sure not being public with Tetsuya is part of it, but she should know she's at risk if it gets exposed while she has a boyfriend. Even so, if she still tries to say Ishiki-kun is the one on the surface, maybe Yukon can turn things around. Yukon asks what she means by doing it right, and she tells him that if he doesn't like it, he should back out. Then she talks about the trip, saying Karen-san is all set to go, but Tetsuya seems unsure. She's sure to cancel as she said she didn't like it. She wonders what would happen if she told him to come over no matter what the day before the trip. Then she says when Karen is disappointed about the trip, she was hoping it would get canceled last minute. If Yukon is kind to her, Karen might change her mind. Sakurajima tells Yukon they're not fighting alone, they're in this together. Yukon laughs and she tells him not to laugh because it's embarrassing. He apologizes and says he's just happy to have her on his side. She asks what he means, but he changes the subject, saying he'll do his best. She says that's the spirit, and that should motivate him. Sakurajima tells him this is a good setup to throw Karen off, and the rest is just fine-tuning himself. She says if he only consoles her, it might feel expected. This is especially true for attention-seeking people like Karen. Yukon agrees that girls are a pain, but Sakurajima says it's not just that. Personal relationships are a pain, no matter the gender. He apologizes for saying that, and she asks if they can take a walk together. As they walk, Sakurajima stretches to relieve some muscle pain and says it feels great. She enjoys the weather and wishes it could always be like this. Yukon asks how he should fine-tune himself like she mentioned earlier. She says Karen-san is the type who cares about the opinions of the group, but Yukon still doesn't get it. She gives him an example. If other girls say her boyfriend is great and are jealous of their relationship, she'll want to keep him. Yukon still doesn't get it, so she explains that he should aim to be liked by the group, focusing on the girls. He says he's not popular and struggles with Karen. So how could he make other girls like him? Sakurajima tells him she's not saying he should make them fall for him, just to have others say her boyfriend is great. The more he understands this, the easier it will be. She asks him what kind of person he thinks is liked, and he lists someone who's handsome, athletic, tall, kind, and a good conversationalist. Yukon says that sounds like Tetsuya, and she laughs, saying that's a mess. He explains he said that because Tetsuya is the image of someone popular to him. She explains that everyone has a different idea of what makes someone popular, and even height is subjective. Yukon gets it and apologizes. She says being a good conversationalist is something he could work on. Yukon says he can't be the center of attention, but she tells him she doesn't mean he should be a celebrity. She just wants him to listen to others, understand what they want, and respond accordingly. She believes he can do it. Then she says they'll start tomorrow. She advises him to listen closely to others, figure out what they want, and respond. Yukon asks her again what exactly he should do. She says that's enough advice for now and reminds him that they're comrades in this. She's the one making the plan, so that's a bit unfair. Yukon asks again what he can do for her. This time, she whispers something, and he asks why she's saying it so quietly. She angrily tells him to listen the first time. Then she tells him all she wants is for him to teach her how to be a cute girl. Yukon can't believe it, and she says she has to meet Senpei's expectations. Sakurajima wants Yukon to teach her how to be cute. Yukon looks at her and says that her expression right now is the cutest. Sakurajima doesn't get why he's so happy, so she asks him what's so funny. She gets mad, and he asks her if she's sure she wants him to teach her. He says he doesn't think his opinion would be helpful. Sakurajima says she's asking because it's him. She wants him to summarize the main points in more than 5 pages but less than 10. She tells him that if he gets an AC, he'll have to redo it. Yukon wonders why she wants him to write an essay. He thinks the thing she said was cute, but he bets she wouldn't get it if he told her. He says he'll try to gather his thoughts, and she says she's got high hopes for him. As he thinks about it, she's sparkling, and he wonders if he's making a promise he can't keep. Yukon gets home and tries calling his girlfriend Karen, but she doesn't pick up. He remembers how she used to say couples should call every night. That's why he's calling her now. He tries again later, and this time she answers. He says it's him, Yukon, and she angrily says she knows who it is from the caller ID and asks what he wants. Yukon thinks she's in a bad mood and asks why she didn't pick up earlier, but she doesn't answer. Then she tells him she's going to sleep and hangs up. Yukon thinks she was already asleep, but really, she's with Tetsuya. Before hanging up, he asks her if they didn't promise to call every night. She says he doesn't need her anymore. Sitting with Tetsuya on her bed, she says they've been together for 3 months now, and they both had their own plans. She doesn't want to be bothered. Yukon asks if talking to him is a bother. She says it's not, but calling every day feels like surveillance, and she doesn't like feeling trapped. She says if it keeps going like this, she might end up hating him. Yukon thinks it's ironic. Karen asks if he's done, saying her head hurts and she needs to sleep. They both say goodnight, and she hangs up instantly. The next day, Yukon tells Sakurajima and Kanzu Kazumi everything. Kazumi says since Karen was so rude, she was definitely with Tetsuya that night. Sakurajima angrily tells Kazumi to stop saying that. Kazumi apologizes and says that no matter how she looks at it, Yukon's too vulnerable. Yukon says sorry to Kazumi and thinks she's exactly like Senpei's friend. Sakurajima apologizes and says Kazumi doesn't always say nice things. Kazumi says there's no point in feeling sorry now and asks if they can order food. Sakurajima says, as Kazumi suggested, it's better for him not to contact Karen when she might be with Tetsuya. She also says that saying she's sleeping or her head hurts is a typical excuse. Kazumi adds that the goal is to break up with Karen when she's most attached to Yukon, and forgetting that would be a big mistake. She says they're not doing the usual love game. They need to be careful with every word and action or it won't work. Ishida asks if he can help and Kazumi warns him to be careful. After that, she asks Sakurajima what she wants them to do. Sakurajima says she wants them to make an expose at the Christmas party. She wants to create the right atmosphere for everyone's reaction. Ishida says that's basically telling everyone about Tetsuya and Karen's secrets. Sakurajima says she doesn't need to go that far, she just wants to spread the info within their circle. Ishida says they need to connect with potential allies. Yukon is surprised he got so quickly. Ishida explains that an expose is revealing their plan, and if their circle isn't united, the response might be shaky. Yukon wants to avoid arguments on the spot. Kazumi says they need allies who can say a few words to rally everyone. Sakurajima wants to leave it to them. Kazumi smiles and says they should try their best and asks Ishida if he's in. He says of course, and he won't sit idle while his best friend is made a fool of. Sakurajima thanks him, and Kazumi says she won't be satisfied until she gets her shot at them. Kazumi is straightforward, and the meeting goes smoothly under the girls' leadership. What was unexpected, though, was Ishida joining this serious conversation. Ishida says Tuko-senpai is amazing, and he's feeling good. He wonders why Tetsuya isn't loyal to such a great girl and says he'd regret it forever. Yukon says Tetsuya's values are beyond him, and Ishida agrees. Ishida says he was worried when he heard Karen wasn't loyal because when Yukon gets mad, he tends to stop thinking. He wasn't sure what would happen if Yukon got violent. He says he doesn't want to go through that, and Yukon apologizes for making him worry. Ishida says he's relieved Yukon is more rational than he thought and thanks God for Tuko. Yukon says he's glad he's not alone. Ishida says they should stop though because disloyalty in a relationship can't be solved with just one decision. The person being cheated on either resents or forgets, but the wound doesn't heal easily. Getting revenge won't help, and even if they succeed, Tetsuya and Karen will resent them. He thinks Yukon should move on and forget about it. However, he jokingly says getting closer to Tuko-senpai isn't a bad idea, and he really hopes things go well for them. Ishida says being alone isn't enough, and Yukon should confront Tetsuya and Karen. Ishida will be an accomplice. Yukon says he's about to cry, and Ishida says at least don't cry on the train. In class, Yukon and everyone agree to do it tonight. He remembers Sakurajima telling him his appearance matters more than anything, he says. She says people in their department don't care about looks, but wearing old, worn-out clothes makes him look sloppy. She's not telling him to buy expensive clothes just to look good with normal stuff. Yukon says he knows nothing about fashion, and she says they'll choose clothes together because they need to make Karen notice. They go shopping, and Yukon is overwhelmed by all the choices. He's not sure what to pick. Sakurajima tells him not to overthink it, and if he buys anything there, he'll be fine. He asks if she means the outfits on the mannequins, and he's not sure about wearing the same thing. She says the outfits are designed to be wearable by anyone. She picks a shirt for him and thinks he'll look good in it. He tries it on, but she says it's too formal and picks out a more casual combination for him. She says it fits well and tells him it should be enough. Yukon ends up buying 3 outfits. Sakurajima says they're all versatile, so if he doesn't combine them strangely, it'll work. If he's unsure, he can just stick to how they tried them on. She says if he buys more, it's safer to go for simple things without patterns. She warns him to avoid thrift shops since it's hard to tell what's old. She offers to help if he has any doubts, and Yukon says she knows a lot about fashion. She says she's a girl and she studied it like anyone else would. Yukon says it shows since she picked clothes for him so easily. She tells him not to overthink it and not to tell anyone. Then she reveals she used to model for a magazine. She picked up tips from the business, and Yukon isn't surprised. He asks if she's still modeling, and she says no because it affected her daily life too much. She asks him to keep it a secret since she hasn't told Tetsuya. Yukon says it's fine and asks if there are other cute girls around her. She says no, but she wants to know what makes a girl cute from a guy's point of view, not just about looks. Yukon says he doesn't really get the difference, and she reminds him not to forget to submit his essay. He asks if the sampling would be enough with just feelings and thinks it'd be better to ask friends or check online. Sakurajima tells him not to search the internet. Yukon stays quiet, and she asks if he's really going to do it. He says he won't, and she says she might be doomed. Yukon looks up what makes a cute girl on the internet to help Sakurajima. He reads through several articles, but then realizes he probably shouldn't be looking it up here. If it was something easy to find, she wouldn't have asked him to help. She just wants to know his thoughts on what makes someone cute, so he starts thinking about it. To him, a person is cute if they're both beautiful and kind. They're usually well put together, but it's cute when they panic or get impatient. As he thinks about it, he catches himself imagining her and tells himself that he's only doing this because she asked him to. He also thinks someone could be cute if they're good at cooking or family-oriented, someone who depends on him. He imagines her again, so he tells himself to stop and apologizes for thinking about her without her permission. When he says sorry, his mom walks in and asks if he's okay. He tells her he's fine, and she reminds him to close the door as she's heading out to work. He tells her to take care and says that her sudden entrance startled him. After that, he checks his phone and sees that Ishida is asking if he's free today and if he wants to join him at his second-hand shop in Shibuya. Yukon agrees because he thinks it'll be a good break. They go out shopping, and Ishida finally finds the clothes he was looking for. Yukon comments that it looks like Ishida's having fun, but Ishida notices his mood and asks if he's okay. Yukon brushes it off, saying it's nothing, but Ishida insists on hearing it. Yukon asks him what he thinks makes a girl cute. Ishida is confused by the question, but answers that it has to do with looks. If someone's cute, they have to be beautiful. He thinks it's great when someone is called the best in school. He mentions that Senpai fits both those categories and is very confident. Yukon agrees that Senpai is confident too. Ishida says it's also cute when someone can change their emotions depending on the situation. He jokes about blonde hair and twin tails being the best, and Yukon imagines Senpai in twin tails. Ishida goes on about how he'd like a girl in a band, and Yukon thinks Senpai would look great playing the violin. Ishida also mentions a childhood friend or an unrelated sister situation being exciting, though he admits that's going too far. He says he has no problem with animal ears, and Yukon imagines Senpai with cat ears. Ishida adds that he can't forget about magical girls, and he prefers morning anime over night shows. Yukon is lost at this point and asks what Ishida's talking about. Ishida explains he's talking about what makes a cute girl. Yukon instantly regrets asking, but admits he's been daydreaming too. Ishida then asks if he prefers a magical girl or one with animal ears, saying he doesn't discriminate. Yukon says he doesn't care about Ishida's preferences, but doesn't want to deal with the little sister type since Mika-chan would be upset. Ishida laughs and says he prefers an older sister, but then he remembers that Mika's been worried about Yukon, noticing that he's been a bit down. Yukon says he hasn't seen her in a while, and Ishida says Mika really likes him. Ishida then suggests that after the Christmas party, Yukon should come over to his house. He's sure Mika would be happy to see him. Ishida leaves to pay for his shopping, and Yukon notices the sailboard and realizes Christmas Eve is still a month and a half away. He thinks about how October is already over and feels like he's just following along with the plan Senpai came up with. He doesn't feel like he's making any progress and realizes he can't just keep responding to Senpai's moves. He needs to change his mindset. Ishida suddenly taps him on the shoulder, asking him to look at something. Yukon looks over and sees Tetsuya walking with a girl. Ishida points out that she looks like someone 2 years ahead of them and says she doesn't appear much in their circle. Yukon agrees with him, but he can tell there's some distance between Tetsuya and the girl, though it seems a bit off when viewed from behind. Yukon is confused by Ishida's comment, so Ishida explains that he thinks this could be proof of something. They notice there's a hotel nearby, which makes Yukon even angrier. He's determined to expose Tetsuya no matter what. Soon after, Yukon gets a message from Karen saying she's going to the movies with a friend and that he can go home first. He immediately thinks she's meeting Tetsuya today as well. He wonders if Karen knows Tetsuya has other girls but tells himself it doesn't matter because he's still going to do what he plans. He remembers Sakurajima told him the trip they're taking is next month's first weekend, 2 days and 1 night. He realizes it's at the same time as the school festival, and although their circle has a booth, many third years won't be there, so it won't attract attention. Sakurajima is sure that Karen will say she's not feeling well to cover up the trip. Sakurajima says Yukon should hear from Karen soon and asks if he's ready for this. She cheerfully says Karen will be going on the trip without any doubts. Yukon tells her not to worry, assuring her he understands. Sakurajima says she'll stop Tetsuya the day before as they planned, and when Karen gets up last minute, she'll contact him right away. Yukon asks her why she thinks Karen will reach out, and Sakurajima explains that Karen will likely be frustrated with Tetsuya for not prioritizing her and won't feel comfortable talking about it with her friends. So there's a high chance she'll contact Yukon instead. Yukon agrees that it makes sense as long as he's not dealing with a three-timing situation. Sakurajima then tells him that if Karen contacts him, he should be kind and supportive, even if it's just over text. He needs to make Karen feel like he's the one she can always rely on. Yukon acknowledges how convenient that is and agrees. Sakurajima says Karen thinks of Yukon as more convenient because if anything goes wrong with Tetsuya, she knows she can turn to him. Yukon asks if he has to be Karen's backup plan, and Sakurajima says yes, but the backup plan can be her lifeline. She says he won't fully understand what it means until he's backed into a corner, but it would be terrible if that lifeline disappeared. That's why he has to make sure Karen always feels safe relying on him. Yukon understands and agrees. Sakurajima then says that the first step is to make sure everything goes according to plan. Yukon says they will succeed, and she says the next step is his turn. Yukon is confused and asks what she means. She reminds him about the essay. She asked him to write about what makes someone cute. Yukon thinks about it and realizes he has no idea how to answer her question. Yukon wonders if when she asked him how to be cute, she was serious. He doesn't know if he should tell Senpai how he feels because he thinks she's cute, but saying that out loud might not mean much. He feels like it's better to talk about more than just looks. He doesn't want her to think that's all he notices about her. Yukon thinks she's a good person. She knows herself well and treats him like it's Sunder sometimes. He's thinking it would be nice if she acted like a housewife. He's running out of things to say, and the silence between them is starting to make him nervous. The only thing he can talk about is her looks, but he feels like saying something is better than saying nothing. She is beautiful, and he feels that confidence is something that impresses men. He's unsure of what else to say, but mentions her hairstyle, saying it leaves a good impression. He suggests she try 2 twin tails, and she thanks him for the suggestion. Yukon realizes he messed up when she says he only thinks she's cute. He feels like he should back off and let her leave, but before she does, he asks her to wait. He apologizes, saying those things he said weren't really his thoughts, just general comments. He asks if she'd give him another chance to say what he truly thinks. Sakurajima says it's fine, and she felt the same way. He assures her he's being serious now and wants to tell her what he really thinks. Sakurajima agrees and says maybe she rushed things too quickly today. She says he can explain again in his own way. Yukon feels relieved, and she reassures him that everything will be fine. While they're talking, Yukon gets a text from Karen asking if he remembers the trip she mentioned. She says it's planned for November 6th and 7th. He replies that she should go and have fun. He thinks it's okay to say that. Karen tells him he should also go somewhere because he needs a break too. Yukon thinks about what she really means. He wonders if she's asking what he's planning to do, so he tells her he doesn't have any specific plans and just wants to enjoy his first school festival. Karen replies, telling him to have fun for her, and asks him to tell her about it later. Yukon wonders if he's being too careful with his responses. A week later, Yukon tells Ishida that the school festival starts tomorrow. Ishida asks about Karen's trip. Yukon says nothing's moving yet. Ishida asks if he's okay with that. Yukon says he's just doing what Senpai told him, telling Karen to have fun without asking too many questions about where she's going or who she's with. Apparently, it's best not to ask about souvenirs either. Yukon shows Ishida the messages and says he's glad Karen didn't get suspicious. Ishida asks what's really going on. Yukon says the times Karen and Tetsuya meet seem to have increased a lot. Ishida says it's a good thing. They're letting their guard down. Yukon wonders if Sakurajima really stopped Karen's trip like she said. He keeps thinking about it and wonders what kind of tricks she used to make sure Tetsuya didn't go. He realizes that Sakurajima can easily control Tetsuya. Just then, his phone rings and it's Karen. He picks up, asking what's going on. Karen starts yelling, saying her trip got canceled last minute. She doesn't know how it happened. She asks Yukon if he doesn't think it's terrible, and he agrees that it's terrible, especially since she's been looking forward to it. Karen says it's too much, and Ishida thinks about how confidently she's complaining. He finds it ironic that an unfaithful couple is complaining about betrayal. Karen tells Yukon she's really sad and is crying. He tries to comfort her, saying that if she were close, he'd be there to console her. He wonders if it's okay to say that. Ishida thinks that it's hard to avoid Yukon sounding so caring. Yukon continues comforting Karen and she thanks him for being so kind. Ishida listens to their conversation and thinks that Karen seems to have a strong personality. He figures that girls like her are dangerous because they don't like being less important. Meanwhile, Karen tells Yukon that she misses him, and he says he misses her too. Then Karen says she's happy to have a boyfriend like him. Yukon wonders if Karen wants him to come see her right now. He asks her if she paid the cancellation fees, reminding her that she could be charged if she hasn't. Karen says everything is fine, and Yukon thinks it's a shame that Karen had to pay for the cancellation fee. Yukon keeps talking to Karen, comforting her, and she says that he's the only one who cares about her. She thanks him again for helping her while she's sad. Yukon feels like it's getting easier to keep comforting her. Then Karen asks him to hang out with her, but Yukon says sorry, he already made plans with Ishida. He tells her he'll make time for her next time, but not this time. Ishida asks if they have something planned for tomorrow. Yukon says he's not sure but lies, saying he doesn't want to go out with Karen. Yukon calls Sakurajima and tells her that Karen wants to see him, but he already apologized. Sakurajima asks him to go out with her because it's important for their plan. She says he needs to go comfort Karen. Yukon says he doesn't want to see her at all. Sakurajima convinces him, explaining why he has to meet Karen, and he gets it. Then he asks her about Tetsuya, wondering if it was hard for her to stop him. Sakurajima says it was easy. She just told him she also wanted to travel. Yukon asks if she only said that to keep Tetsuya from going, and she admits it, saying she has an effective card to play. Yukon asks if she's still going to travel with Tetsuya, and she angrily says no. She's going to cancel her trip and pretend to be sick instead. She says she won't travel with a man who isn't loyal to her. Then she tells Yukon that he should go with Karen tomorrow to make sure Tetsuya doesn't invite her again. He agrees with her plan. After the call, Yukon realizes it can't be helped, so he calls Karen. He tells her to cancel with Ishida and will hang out with him another day so that Karen won't feel sad. He then asks if they should go to the school festival together. His voice shakes as he says it. Karen is thrilled and thanks him. Yukon thinks her response sounds exactly like when they first started dating. This will be the first step in their plan against Tetsuya. He only has to wait for 1 more month until Christmas. Then he'll love Karen one last time, needing just a little push. Tetsuya tells Nakozaki to play a song, but Nakozaki mentions that it's the school festival today. Tetsuya tells him to leave that to the second years. Nakozaki then points out that Tetsuya is the one responsible for everything and asks if he's not coming. Tetsuya replies that his plans fell through. Nakozaki hands him some boxes and tells him to help out if he's free. Tetsuya takes the boxes and figures he has to help now. Meanwhile, Ishida is working and wonders why he's the only one doing this. The other guy asks if there's more packing tape. Ishida says he'll go get some, and then he texts the group about Tetsuya. He mentions that Tetsuya came but seems lost and Nakazaki's making him help out. Ishida then bumps into Kazumi-san. She asks how he's doing and he tells her it seems like he has a lot of free time. He adds that Tuko-senpai did a great job. Kazumi laughs and says she's a sweetheart. She says senpai used herself to lure Tetsuya because she knows exactly what he wants. Ishida asks what it is that Tetsuya wants, but Kazumi doesn't tell him and says it's a secret. She then asks about Yukon, and Ishida says Yu hasn't let go of Karen's hand since this morning. Meanwhile, Yukon and Karen are walking together. Karen mentions that there's a haunted house in Building 3. Yukon asks if she's not scared of creepy stuff. Karen says she'll be fine as long as he's with her. Yukon thinks that just because he comforted her after Tetsuya canceled, she's acting completely different now. He thinks it's refreshing to get this far. Then Karen tells him she loves him. This has been pretty much Yukon's entire week, busy from morning to night. He doesn't get much rest while at university. Sakurajima asks if it was tough and Yukon says it's going the right direction. This means Karen's feelings are shifting towards him. Yukon asks if it's not just because she's trying to get back with Kamakura-senpai and Karen says she's not sure. Then she adds there's another possibility and Yukon asks what it is. She says that people's hearts change. Karen might have thought things over and decided Yukon is the best. After hearing this, Yukon says that can't be true, but she tells him not to say that and that he should think about it again. Yukon grinds his teeth and asks what she means. She asks if it's right to hurt and dump Karen right here, suggesting he should carefully consider what the best option is. Once they go through with the plan, there's no turning back. Meanwhile, Yukon is thinking that Senpai might be thinking of getting back with Tetsuya. From his side, though, he can't even think of making up with Karen. Even when looking at her face, which he used to think was cute, he feels nothing. He tells Senpai angrily that even though he feels like this, he's staying with her for the sake of the plan. Senpai apologizes when she hears this and says she said it to test him. She tells him that she's the same and even if he stopped here, she would have done it alone. Yukon asks her not to say things so coldly. Then they both smile and say they're comrades in arms. They start talking about the next plan. Senpai asks if he checked the apps she mentioned. Yukon shows her the apps he found, asking what she wants him to do with them since they're all camera and filter apps. Senpai explains that there's a cafe near the university famous for its cakes. She'll go to the second floor, pretend to look for a seat, and just like she said, it will be full because it's all you can eat. Sakurajima also gathered some girls to talk about the event, and Yukon goes near them to ask for a seat. The girls tell him to go borrow a seat, and Kazumi calls out to him, so he joins them. He takes a seat just like Senpai said. One of the girls asks if they know each other, and Kazumi says they met by chance when she went to the library with Tuko-senpai. They talk for a bit. Then one of the girls asks if Yukon is Karen's boyfriend. He says yes, and another girl says she gets why Kazumi would want him since he has a cute face. This girl, Manami-san, is a second year. Another first-year girl, Yuri-san from the commerce faculty, says Yukon would look cute with some makeup on. Mina-san from second-year economics says he's Karen's and what a waste. Then Ayaka-san from first-year economics says some nice things to him. These 4 girls have strong influence in the circle. Mina says it's a waste because she doesn't like Karen. Minami-san tells her to say that in front of Yukon, but she knows what Mina meant. Mina apologizes to Yukon, saying she tends to speak her mind. Yukon says it's fine, though he thinks if he didn't know about the disloyalty, he'd be really annoyed by this. Then, Yuri-san says Karen's attitude changes depending on whether there are boys around her. During the summer training camp, it was pretty bad. She stayed in the same room as Karen, and Karen would occupy the bathroom until she finished her makeup, so Yuri couldn't go in until then. It would take about 30 minutes. Minami-san says this isn't something she should tell her boyfriend. She apologizes, and Yukon says she's a good girl at heart and that she cares for him too. The girls were shocked after hearing this, and they agreed with him. They asked if he was dating her because she has good qualities. They all apologized to him for saying that stuff in front of him, and he said it was okay because he trusted Karen. He said that if people talk bad about her, they should stick up for her and not just feel sorry for him. Meanwhile, he thought that talking to people who talk bad about your partner just makes you feel worse. Then one of the girls asked if he took a picture earlier, saying something seemed off about it. Yukon thought Kazumi might try to change the subject and gave her a signal. Then he asked the girl what was wrong with the picture, and she told him to look at it carefully. He looked at the picture and said it didn't look that bad at first, but he checked it again. He started editing the picture, adjusting the contrast, but he made sure it didn't look unnatural. When he was done, the girl said it looked much better now. She asked him if he knew a lot about this stuff, and he told her that there was a time when he was looking into making apps himself, but he didn't know enough to make one, so he was still in the research stage. He tried to make a camera app to make some extra cash. He thought about how it was far from being a product he could sell, but the quality wasn't terrible. The girls asked if he had any app recommendations, and he told them about one that takes really natural-looking photos and is great for editing. She said she already used it but didn't know how to make it work, so he showed her how. Then she asked if he had any tips for taking good pictures. He asked her if she knew about the rule of thirds. She didn't, so he explained that you divide the screen both horizontally and vertically to create a structure. He also gave tips on how to use natural light to take better pictures. The girls were really impressed because he knew so much. It made it a lot easier for the girl to do her programming assignments since he helped her. Yukon had to keep helping them every time, but it wasn't too bad. When it was almost time to leave, Senpai told him that overstaying would make a negative impact, and that it was better to leave before they wanted to talk more. Yukon agreed and said that they could always reach out to him if they needed help. After he left, the girls kept talking about him, saying he was great. Yukon asked one of the girls what they were talking about, and she told him they were all praising him. They thought he was super knowledgeable and that he was a treasure for his girlfriend. Yukon worried that if the girls found out how unfaithful Karen was, they'd all start hating her. Senpai told him he studied a lot in a short time and did a great job, and he thanked her. He said it was easy because she set everything up, and she said she also needed to work hard. She told him she'd contact him again if there were any updates, and he told her he wanted to talk more about the cute thing they discussed last time. Senpai got excited and asked if he had figured it out. Yukon said he had an answer but couldn't quite put it into words. He thought he couldn't make the same mistake as last time and needed to tell her properly. He wanted to gather his thoughts first and really explain what made her so cute. He told her that last time he gave her a vague, generic answer, but he thought everyone has their own definition of cuteness, so he asked if she could give him some time to talk about it. She said she didn't mind if he missed the mark. Then she asked when she should be free, and he suggested next Sunday. She agreed and told him to meet her at Kemigawahama Station at 8 a.m. They decided to go for a walk, so she told him to wear sneakers or something easy to move in. She asked if they were going on a trip, and he told her they were just going for a ride. She said she'd see him someday and ended the call. Yukon looked at his phone for a bit, then started thinking hard about how to explain Senpei's charm to her. He had told her to come, so maybe he had a secret plan for it. Yukon goes to pick up Sakurajima and finds her already waiting for him. He tells her she's early, and she says she tries to be on time because he's always early. Then she hops in the car and asks if it's rented. Yukon tells her he borrowed it from his parents, while also noticing that she looks great in casual clothes. She asks where he's taking her, and he says he's thought of a few places, but they're heading to Minamiboso because he wants to take a lot of pictures. Sakurajima asks if he really plans to take pictures, and he says yes. He'll give her all the photos and data afterward. Those will be his answer to her. She agrees and says she'll leave everything to him. Yukon thanks her for doing this favor. As they drive, they talk about how nice the weather is and how it's warm. After a while, Senpai asks where they're going to Minamiboso, and Yukon tells her he's thinking about going to Mount Nakajiri. It's a pretty common spot, but she's never been. He says she'll probably show a new expression there. When they arrive, they see a big stone, and Senpai says it looks like a part of Buddha in Japan. Yukon agrees with her. They keep walking around, and he says he would have been lost if she didn't find stuff like this interesting, but it looks like he was worried for nothing. She says there's no way, and more girls are getting into history nowadays. They start taking pictures, and Senpai tells him not to take pictures without warning. Yukon apologizes and says his goal is to take natural photos. Senpai tells him not to spread her pictures everywhere. He smiles and agrees, saying he'll give her the SD card once they're done. They reach the top and wonder if they should visit the spot called Mount Nakajiri's View of Hell. Yukon asks if she really doesn't want to go, even though they're already there. He asks her to hold his hand if she's scared. Senpai holds his hand but says not to expect her to jump into his arms. He reassures her, saying there's nothing to worry about and he won't expect anything. When they reach the top, Yukon starts taking pictures. Senpai asks if he's still taking pictures, and he says she looks great, so he snaps a few. She asks him not to tease her, and he jokes that the ground will fall apart if there's an earthquake now. Senpai asks him to stop, and he says he'll save her if that happens. She tells him to stop talking because he'd fall too. Yukon apologizes when she gets mad and calls him an idiot as she walks off. Realizing he went too far, he wonders how to fix things. She asks where they're going next, and he tells her they're heading to Okinoshima. They get to Okinoshima, and she thinks it's beautiful. Yukon explains that Okinoshima was once an island, but after the big Kanto earthquakes, it became part of the mainland. Senpai asks if that's the same thing that happened with Enoshima, and he says yes, but it was on a larger scale. She tells him she likes it here because it's more peaceful. Looking at the sunset, she mentions that since it's on the east coast, a setting sun must be amazing. Yukon realizes he should have planned this for the evening. Senpai then suggests they go to the island. Once they're there, they find a natural pool and a cave. Senpai gets excited and says it sounds fun. So Yukon takes her picture again. She asks if he took another photo of her, and he smiles saying he didn't. But she knows he did because she heard the shutter. He says it must be her imagination. She tells him she has to be careful around him. Yukon pulls out the camera, saying he wants to take pictures when her guard is down, and snaps another one. They head to the beach, and Senpai comments on how clear the water is. Yukon agrees and says it's his first time here, but it's really beautiful. Senpai points out that there's a fish and runs into the water to see it. He takes more pictures of her. Yukon thinks she sounds like a kid having fun. She calls him over to see the fish too, and as she gets too excited, her foot slips, and she almost falls into deeper water. Yukon grabs her, saying that was dangerous. He asks if she's hurt, but she's too close to him to say anything. She stands up and says he took another picture at a time like this. Yukon admits he pressed the shutter, but insists it wasn't on purpose. They decide to leave because it's getting too awkward. They head back to the car, and Senpai says she's glad they dried off while walking. He asks if she's hurt anywhere, and she says she's fine. She thanks him for catching her and says she forgot to earlier, so she's saying it now. Yukon says he told her he would save her and asks if she believes him now. Senpai asks if he's not going to say you're welcome, and they fall silent for a moment. They arrive at their next stop, get out of the car, and Senpai feels the sea breeze. She says it feels nice. Yukon asks her to cut him some slack for today, and if she wants to take a picture, she should at least be ready. Senpai says there's no point in being ready. They go to the top of a building, and Senpai tells Yukon she really doesn't know what he's thinking. She looks out at the Pacific Ocean. Yukon asks if it makes her wonder, and Sakurajima says that beyond this point, it's no longer Japan. Yukon agrees and adds that North and South America, Australia, and Antarctica are next. Senpai tells him if she said her dream was to sail around the world on a yacht. Would he laugh? He says it's a bit unusual since he sees her as more of an indoor type. She says she read about it in a book as a kid and thought it was amazing how a married couple circle the world. Yukon says it's just unrealistic dream talk in reality. Senpai then says her dad also loves the sea. She tells him that lighthouses used to be the only guide for sailors in the dark of night, and that's why her father named her Tuko, so she could be the hope and light for those around her. Yukon thinks about how Senpai has been a light to him, especially after Karen's betrayal. She gave him a goal and hope. Senpai asks if he heard something, and Yukon says it's a crying voice. She goes to check and finds a kid crying by the beach. She calls Yukon over, and they think the kid tripped on some rocks. Senpai says she'll do first aid. She helps the kid, telling him he'll be fine now. They think it's better to treat him properly elsewhere, so they ask where his parents are. The kid points them in the right direction, and Yukon asks how he got lost. The kid says he saw a crab, but it ran away. The kid asks if they're on a date, and Yukon doesn't know how to answer. He says it's something like that. The kid then asks if they're lovers, saying Mai-chan told him that anyone on a date is a couple. Yukon wonders who Mai-chan is. Senpai laughs and says if Mai-chan says so, it must be true. Yukon looks at her and doesn't know what to say. They finally find the kid's mom. Senpai tells the kid to stay close to his mom and says goodbye. Senpai asks Yukon if it's weird that she likes kids, and he says not at all. They decide to grab something to eat. They go out for food and decide to eat whale. While eating, they both agree it tastes much more like meat than they expected. Senpai says whales are in the Cetartiodactyl family, like cows and deer, so it makes sense that the flavor is similar. Yukon calls her the goddess of the library, but Senpai angrily tells him not to call her that. Yukon says he doesn't think anyone is using that negatively, but she says she's not a goddess. She says that she thinks he understands her more than that, and Yukon apologizes to her because he didn't mean it like that. Then they both go to eat ice cream, and she tells him that he has good taste. He thinks that she's right. Her mood will improve with some soft serve. He thinks she has a really cute side too. Then she asks him to try the honey because it tastes so good. Yukon tries the honey and agrees that it's really good. He says it was so natural for him to go along with it, and he wonders if this is some kind of indirect love. Sakurajima then asks him to share some of his ice cream, and she starts eating it. She mentions that the peanuts taste great, and Yukon thinks this is probably an indirect love too. Yukon takes another picture of her, and she tells him not to take any more pictures while she's eating. He thinks she's too cute. They then go to their last spot, and Senpai says she likes it here because it's quiet and really beautiful. She sits down, stretches her body, and relaxes. Then she says she had more fun than she expected and that she's never had this much fun with Tetsuya. Yukon says he's happy she had a good time, and she mentions that she's a little jealous of Karen. She's jealous that he always does things like this with Karen, and Yu-kun tells her he doesn't go to places like this with Karen because she likes trendy places, like shopping. Thinking about it, he realizes they don't have anything in common, not their tastes, the places they want to go, or how they feel about each other. Then he asks Senpai if she ever thought of breaking up with Tetsuya. She says there were times where she thought about it, but she always felt like it was just part of being in a relationship. She kept putting it off, thinking that if they broke up, things would be awkward later. She wanted to wait a little longer. Then she started to see that Tetsuya was always hiding the fact that he felt lonely. He could get attention from anyone, but there was no one who really cared for him. She thinks he just wants a lot of people around him all the time. She also knows he's been disloyal, but he's been prioritizing her, so she thought it might have just been a temporary mistake. If it weren't for Yu-kun, she's sure she would have kept ignoring everything. To Tetsuya, she was just an accessory to show off. As for the disloyalty, she felt like he was just trying on different accessories, and she wonders if that means she's lacking in charm. Yu-kun tells her it's not true. She's very charming, and it's not just about her looks. He shows her the pictures he took and asks her to look at them. She looks at the pictures from today, and Yu-kun says they show her having fun, smiling naturally, and being herself. He thinks they're really cute, and this is the side of her that he thinks is wonderful. Yu-kun says this is what he wanted to show her, which is why he wanted to go around with her today. He tells her he'd like to submit this as his report. Senpai keeps looking at the pictures and then thanks him. She says that out of all the pictures she's ever taken, these are the happiest ones, even better than the ones taken by a professional photographer. Yu-kun drops her off at her home, says he'll see her again at the university, and thanks her for today. Senpai also thanks him, saying it's been a while since she had so much fun on a day off. She says today's date was excellent, just like his name. She says goodnight to him, and Yu-kun takes it as a pass and thanks God for everything. However, he's not sure about what she said at the end, and he wonders if he can really think of it as a date. Sakurajima brings a bento to Tetsuya and tells him it's for him. Tetsuya looks at her and asks if it's handmade because that's rare, and who would have thought that Tuko would do something like this? She tells him she canceled their trip last time at the last minute, which made her think she should do more girlfriend things now and then, and this bento could also be an apology. She asks if it tastes good, and if it does, she'll make another one for him. Tetsuya thanks her and takes the bento. Meanwhile, Karen is getting annoyed at a couple and says this isn't the place to share love. She goes on to say that if people already have their own bentos, they don't need to come to the cafeteria. Yu-kun thinks that Karen is being blind to her own actions because she's also eating a bento right now. Karen looks at him and asks if he's thinking the same thing, and he says yes, exactly like she said. She asks if Tuko-senpai is acting too flirty lately, and he thinks about how there's so much he could point out but just needs to act normal. Tetsuya, on the other hand, is eating the bento and says it's really good, which makes Sakurajima happy. She says Karen had the image of her being cold, but now it's super disappointing. Yu-kun, however, ignores everything Karen says because she's surprisingly right about everything. There's no way Senpai would do these things for Kamakura without a reason. This all started a little before Yu-kun's date with Senpai, when she called him and asked if she could ask him for some advice. She wanted to know what things a guy would like someone to do for him. She was thinking of ways to make Tetsuya feel even more for her, so she asked if he had any good ideas. Yu-kun tells her to give him a second to think and says that playing it safe, a gift could work. Sakurajima says she doesn't want to spend money on someone who's not loyal to her. Then he asks how about something handmade. Considering the season, he thinks a scarf would work, but she says that would take too long. She wants something that could amplify Tetsuya's feelings without taking much time or money. Plus, it would be great if it's something that sticks with him even after they break up. Yu-kun suggests she make a handmade bento because it will make Tetsuya really happy. They'll remember it every time he eats lunch at college or even when he starts working. They'll probably make him feel emotional. Sakurajima thinks it's a brilliant idea and agrees with him. Yu-kun asks if there's a problem, and she tells him she's bad at cooking, which surprises him. He thought she was the type of person who could do everything perfectly. He tells her it's not a problem because she can just use frozen foods. She can take them out of the bags and pack them into the bento without even meaning to thaw them. Senpai wonders if something like that will actually work, and Yu-kun reassures her that frozen food has come a long way. There are bite-sized hamburgers, steaks, tonkatsu, omurice, and spaghetti. The side dishes are great too. He tells her to check out the frozen food section at the store, and she says she'll do that. The plan is working, and Tetsuya is thinking that his woman can do anything. The hamburger steak he's eating, along with the dressed spinach and the omelet in the bento, all look so good at first glance. But everything in that bento was just taken out of bags and packed in there in less than 5 minutes. Yu-kun smiles because he's impressed by how far frozen food has come. He knows it's all part of their plan, but just looking at it makes Karen upset. Karen says that he said it, and Yu-kun slightly agrees with her. While Yu-kun is sitting, Kazumi-san comes and asks if he minds letting them sit next to him. Yu-kun says he doesn't mind at all and makes space for them. Kazumi-san goes to bring chairs and apologizes to Karen for interrupting her time with her boyfriend. Karen says it's fine since they're almost done eating. They decide to come back after seeing how things are because the line is crowded. Kazumi then says it's a perfect chance because they were looking for Yu-kun. She mentions that they were talking about him giving them programming lessons, and they're in a bit of trouble. Yu-kun agrees to help, asking her to tell him what they need. He also asks her for their contact information. Kazumi says they haven't exchanged contacts yet, so she shares her details with him. After exchanging contacts, Kazumi thanks him and asks if she can pass it on to Manami and Yuki too, and Yu-kun agrees. Kazumi says it feels awkward to ask for his contact info in front of his girlfriend, but it's better than doing it secretly. Karen says it's fine since she knows Yu-kun has eyes only for her. Then one of the other girls says it's true because he did say he was Karen's boyfriend the last time they met. Another girl says Karen's lucky to have such a devoted boyfriend. Yukon is thinking about what's going on with the atmosphere. Yuri says it's because Yukon is kind, and she imagines he's big-hearted enough to accept a little selfishness from her. Karen walks away and Yukon follows her. She asks when she started getting along with them so well and tells the girls they finished eating, so they're going. Yukon tells the girls to continue using the table, and Mina says she'll contact him later. Yukon runs behind Karen and the girls are surprised he can put up with her like that. Yukon then explains everything to Karen, saying he ran into them in the cafeteria, and since they asked for his help with their programming homework, he helped. Karen asks why he did that, saying it was cheeky of him. Yukon says that now they're all in the same circle, and he'll probably need their help later, so they're helping each other out. Karen angrily says he shouldn't talk to other girls like that because it looks bad. Meanwhile, Yukon is thinking she's the one to say that. He apologizes to her because he thinks she might have a hard time if he doesn't get along with the girls from their circle. Karen says she's bad with groups of girls like them because they seem jealous. She thinks the girls are definitely aiming for Yukon, and they'll attack her for every little thing. Yukon thinks she's completely wrong. Karen says this is why she prefers being direct and says Yukon must be loyal to her. He has to treasure her and only her, and she holds his hand. Yukon thinks of all sorts of hurtful things, and at that moment, he almost says something but remembers what Sakurajima told him. They can't let anyone suspect anything. He holds Karen's hand and says the only one important to him is her. Yukon is carrying a lot of luggage because his circle Wakiai is holding a farewell party in December. This will be their last big gathering before the Christmas party, and it's a great chance to make a good impression on the other members. Yukon and Ishida are traveling in a car. Ishida mentions that it's supposed to be a one-day camping event. Yukon replies that they can't do anything about it. If they stayed overnight, it would be hard for everyone to agree on a date, and the budget would go over the limit. Ishida says that's just being soft and asks if Yukon volunteered for the cooking duty. Yukon is surprised that he noticed and says that Tuko-senpai told him he needs to get the most attention from the girls at the farewell party. Cooking was the best idea he had. Ishida says it's a great plan because Yukon's cooking is good enough to sell at a restaurant. Yukon says his dad trained him, and if it's a barbecue, he thinks he can handle it. Ishida calls him chief and asks what's on the menu. Yukon tells him it's Dutch oven roast chicken, which should be really flavorful since the chicken will soak in brine. Ishida says it sounds professional, and Yukon mentions that after Senpai suggested it, he also decided to make a small dessert. Ishida asks if he has everything covered. Then Ishida asks if Senpai is in Tetsuya's car. Yukon says it can't be helped. They are a loving couple, at least on the surface. He adds that it's tough for Tuko-senpai, having to be in a car with a guy who's not loyal to her, and it's good that Karen went in a different group's car. It's a rule for people who live close to each other to go together. In the car, Ishida asks Yukon if he's okay with the music, and Yukon says it's fine, he'll listen to anime songs. Then he mentions that there are a lot of instructions Senpai gave him. He needs to interact equally with the girls, keep the conversations lighthearted, and help any girl in trouble. Ishida says he doesn't think Karen will stand by quietly, and Yukon says Senpai told him not to pay too much attention to Karen. The goal is to make her slightly jealous. Ishida says Karen will definitely get jealous and asks if there's anything he can do to help. Yukon tells him Senpai also said he needs to get along with the boys too, because girls like groups of boys who get along. He tells Ishida to gather the boys while he cooks, and once he's free, he'll join them. Ishida gets the plan and suggests they play with a frisbee. Yukon is shocked that he brought one. Ishida says they don't often get the chance to play in an open space, so he bought one. Ishida then says there may be other reasons for bringing it, but they should enjoy it anyway. Yukon thinks about making a good impression with the girls and tells Ishida that he's right. There have been times when things he did during dates with Karen backfired, but he tells himself he can't fail this time. They reach the camp, and the announcement is made for the cooking team to start preparing. Yukon begins cooking, and the girls are impressed. He tells them that he often goes camping with his family, so he's used to it. One of the girls asks if he can check their stove, which isn't lighting up. Yukon agrees to help. He picks up the wood and explains that it's bincho-tan, which burns for a long time, but is harder to light. He says it should work if he brings over some charcoal and ignites it to burn together. Yukon asks the girl to wait while he gets the charcoal, then burns the wood. The girl thanks him, saying he saved her. Yukon tells her to call him again if she has any other problems. When he leaves her camp, all the girls are staring at him. He thinks this is going well and figures it's time to start on his roast chicken. He lines up the vegetables and places the seasoned chicken on top, then puts the lid on and places charcoal on top so the heat circulates. While cooking, the girl comes back asking for help. She says she can't cook the meat properly. Yukon checks it and sees the meat is burnt but undercooked inside, probably because she didn't use foil. He asks if she started cooking right after taking it out of the cooler, and suggests letting it defrost first. She should also use a lower flame. Yukon says it should be fine if she scrapes off the burnt parts and cooks it in the middle once it's defrosted. The girl thanks him, and then all the other girls ask for his help. They're doing a hot pot and need help controlling the fire. Yukon looks at them, thinking things are going better than expected, and Ishida says Yukon is super popular. The girls say that Yukon is a secret weapon because a man who's good at this stuff looks extra reliable outdoors. One girl tells Ishida to learn from Yukon, and he says his specialty is eating. She tells him not to talk back, and Ishida asks if they think Yukon is reliable. The girl says, who knows? Meanwhile, Yukon is teaching the girl how to simmer the food longer. He says he's making Dutch oven roast chicken, and the girls think he's on another level. Yukon says it's easy once you learn how to do it carefully. Karen then asks if the food isn't ready yet because she's hungry. He tells her it's resting and will be ready in about 20 minutes. She says she can't wait that long and asks if the soup will be ready soon. After a while, Yukon announces that the roast chicken and minestrone are ready and that anyone who wants some can ask for a plate. Everyone tries the roast and is impressed by how soft it is and how the seasoning has soaked into the meat and vegetables. They think it's even better than restaurant food. Senpai also tries the chicken and agrees it's delicious, thanking Yukon. Kazumi asks if Yukon will be her wife and the girls laugh, saying it's more like the other way around. Yukon thinks the meal was a success, but then he gets a message from Tuko-senpai. He wonders why she's messaging him while they're so close and checks what she wrote. She asks him to give her a ride home, and he wonders if that's a little too obvious. She says Tetsuya is being too pushy today and wants him to help her. Yukon thinks about how he can't tell Tetsuya that senpai is trying to get away from him, especially since she's against it. She asks if she can call out to him herself, and he says no, they should leave it up to Kazumi. Yukon thinks that Tetsuya is still senpai's boyfriend, so he can't make any open moves. But if it comes to that, he'll have to step in and expose Tetsuya's disloyalty. Yuki thinks she ate too much greasy food and asks if she can have some tea. Manami agrees and says she wanted something light too. Then she tells Yukon that she expected nothing less from him, always thinking ahead. They all agree they deserve to have some sweets by the camp. Tetsuya and his friends ask Yukon if he wants to join them for a game of frisbee, and Yu agrees. He catches the frisbee, but soon starts feeling tired. Ishida notices and asks if he was okay, if he's pushing himself too hard. Yu says he's fine, but adds that Tuko-senpai texted him a few minutes ago. Just as he's about to say more, Karen interrupts, saying she wants to play too. She thinks frisbee sounds fun, and Yu suggests they switch to volleyball, thinking it might be easier. He also suggests inviting the other girls. Karen says she doesn't mind playing frisbee since she has enough stamina. On the way home, Kazumi asks Yu if he can give her and Tuko a ride because Tuko hurt her back and sitting for too long is making it worse. Yu says he doesn't mind and tells them to wait while he folds the back seats. Tuko quietly says they saved them, and Yu says it's fine. Tetsuya comes over and asks why they're making decisions without him since he's the one taking Tuko home. Kazumi explains that since Tuko's back hurts, they decided it would be better if she could lie down in their car. Tetsuya asks what the problem is and says it's fine if they recline the seats in his car. Yu gets upset and asks why she came to him for help if her back hurts. Tetsuya tells him not to talk like he knows everything since he's not a doctor. Yu says to stop, pointing out that since Tuko herself said it hurt, they should respect her choice. Tetsuya shouts at him, asking what he means by that. Kazumi steps in and says that Tuko said it would be tiring to stay in Tetsuya's car for a long time, which is why she asked you for help. Tetsuya says not to worry, he'll drive carefully, and they can take breaks if Tuko feels pain. He insists that it's better for all of them to go together. Tetsuya then takes Tuko with him, and Yu feels like he's forcing her to go with him, ignoring her feelings. Kazumi tells Tetsuya that Tuko has a curfew tonight and something to do tomorrow. Tetsuya says it won't be a problem as long as they take breaks and make it back by morning. Kazumi gets angry, asking if Tetsuya plans to carry Tuko to the bathroom if she needs it. She also says Tuko needs to be able to lie down, so it's necessary for her to go with Yu. Kazumi shouts at him to think things through. Nakozaki walks over and asks what's going on. Tetsuya explains, and Nakozaki suggests that they shouldn't force things and should let Tuko go with Yu instead. He says it's not a problem since Kazumi will be with them and they won't be alone. Ishida says he'll go with him too. And if Tetsuya is still worried, he can follow behind in his own car. Tetsuya agrees, saying he's not suspicious of Yu, but Nakozaki says they should get going because they're running out of time to strike camp. Yu and everyone else heading back with him get in the car. Ishida jokes that he was freaking out, surprised to run into Tetsuya. Yu says it was mostly Kazumi who managed to handle the situation, and Kazumi apologizes for stealing his spotlight. She says she can't believe how stubborn Tetsuya is being. Senpai adds that Tetsuya doesn't change his mind once he's decided on something. She says she was scared but thanks Kazumi and Yu for helping her. Kazumi gives her a hug and says she's got her back. Ishida jokes that Kazumi took all the good parts, but Senpai says she was really happy when Ishida came to help. She thanks him too. Ishida watches them, feeling happy about their bond, and thinks that maybe this isn't so bad after all. Tetsuya is sitting with his friend and asks him if the person in the picture is his girlfriend. His friend says he can say that, and Tetsuya then says he should introduce her to him. Tetsuya asks if she's from their university, and his friend says he'll introduce her when he gets the chance. Tetsuya gets a call and says goodbye to his friend. His friend wonders why Tetsuya didn't say much and starts thinking that maybe Tetsuya is up to something again. Meanwhile, Senpai makes food for Yu and asks how it is when he starts eating it. Yu says the food is really good, and Senpai is happy to hear that. Yu says as expected of Tuko-senpai, only she could make this delicious food so quickly. Senpai says this is the only dish she knows how to make, and she's pretty bad at other dishes. Yu tells her that the basics are the same for all dishes, so be sure she'll learn quickly. He then asks if she's planning to bring this dish to the Christmas party, and she says yes, that's the plan. The Christmas party is almost here. It seemed far away, but now it's coming fast. Apparently, there's a tradition where the girls who volunteer bring their own cooking to the party with everyone from their group. Senpai worked hard to make up for her lack of cooking skills, and Yu thinks the dish is really good, even though the first time she tried it was bad. About 2 weeks ago, Senpai asked Yu for a favor. She invited him over to her house. At first, Yu was surprised and a little happy to be called to her house, but that feeling didn't last. She called him over to try deep-fried chicken, piglet back rib stew, and a cake. Yu tried everything and told her that the chicken was fried too long and was too dry. The stew was way too salty, and the cake was too soggy. The pork was undercooked, and he couldn't even eat it. He asked why she chose such a complicated menu, and she said that since she once gave Tetsuya a bento, she thought she could do well at the Christmas party. You asked if she was trying to put on a good front, even though she couldn't cook, and she said she planned to let the other girls do the cooking and focus on revealing their secret. But when she thought about how to impress Tetsuya, things just went wrong. You said she seemed to make impulsive mistakes, and she asked him not to say that. You understood and offered to teach her how to cook if she was okay with it. She got really happy and said it was reassuring since Yu's food tasted really good. You thought it was annoying that Tetsuya was the reason for this, but these chances were too rare to pass up. He asked if it was okay to use her kitchen, and she said yes. She told him that both her parents work all day and her younger sister is rarely home, so they had the place to themselves. She showed him the kitchen and Yu was impressed by how big it was. He asked what her parents did for work, and she told him they were both doctors. Her dad was a general practitioner, and her mom worked at a hospital. She said they had wanted her to go into medicine, but she wasn't interested. They did teach her some things about it, though. You said it made sense now why she knew how to take care of that kid. She said she just happened to have band-aids with her at the time. He asked her what she usually does for house chores, and she told him they have a housekeeper. He was impressed by that. Then she took out some leftover chicken, and Yu said they could make deep-fried chicken. He rolled up his sleeves and said he cooked this time. He told her to watch carefully because the flavor on the one she made was too bland, so they might need stronger seasoning. He also told her to be careful with the oil temperature. He suggested frying them for a short time at 170 to 180 degrees. Senpei wrote everything down and asked him to wait while she wrote it down. After a while, Yu took the chicken out and Senpei said it was too soon. Yu explained that they used salt and pepper as the base seasoning and the remaining heat would finish cooking them, so it would be fine. Senpei tasted it and agreed that it was really good. Yu said that commercial deep-fried chicken always looked too overdone to him, which is why he ended up frying them too long. He told her she'd be fine if she followed what he did. Senpei thanked him and said she'd try it herself. Yu tasted her dish and asked for the next one. After this, she called him over multiple times to try her cooking. She learned quickly and had improved a lot in just half a month. Yu told her that her cooking was already good enough to sell in a store, and she said it was reassuring to hear that. Then she asked him if he knew she was planning to tell Nakozaki-san about what they were doing at the Christmas party tomorrow. Yu said Nakozaki was Tetsuya's best friend, and Senpei said he was the representative of their group. She said it was okay because Nakozaki could see things impartially and didn't like things that weren't fair. They were planning to create a disturbance on purpose, and it would make sense to explain it to him first. Yu said that was true, but it might be possible that Nakozaki tells Tetsuya about their plan. Senpei said she believed Nakozaki would understand as long as they explained things to him properly. Yu wasn't sure, but Senpei said Nakozaki was the only one who could stop Tetsuya if things got out of hand. Yu said that in that case he'd go with her because it would be hard for her to say it, so he'd be the one to speak. Senpei thanked him, and the week passed by quickly. They would finally expose them, but Yu wasn't sure how it would turn out. Nakozaki was sitting with his girlfriend when he got a message on his phone. His girlfriend asked who it was, and he wondered who Yu-kun was since the name didn't ring a bell. He said he didn't know him. Then Nakozaki told his girlfriend, Rumi, that she should show her face in their group more often, but Rumi said it was hard for her because she didn't like going out much. Nakozaki wanted her to go because it was hard for him to introduce her if no one knew her. His girlfriend asked about the message, and Nakozaki said it was from Yu-kun, who wanted to meet him tomorrow because he had something important to talk about. Rumi jokingly asked if Yu-kun was confessing to him, but Nakozaki wasn't sure what it was about. He had a bad feeling about it, but he wasn't sure why. Ishida spots his senior Kazumi sleeping on a chair. He calls her name to wake her up. Kazumi opens her eyes and teases him for sneaking up on her. She didn't take Ishida to be this sort of a man. Ishida calls her a self-conscious old man. She's so full of herself. Kazumi stretches and her coat slips off. Ishida grabs the coat, being the gentleman he is. Kazumi tells she's trying to wear her coat less frequently. Very demure and mindful. Ishida blushes red like a tomato. He asks Kazumi about lunch. She's broke, so she's going to stay hungry. It's what she calls dieting. She's just a girl. Ishida lends her lunch money so she doesn't go hungry. What a gentleman. Kazumi thanks him and asks what she can do to pay him back. Ishida thinks for a moment. She can be the perfect fake girlfriend. Ishida asks Kazumi to go to the Christmas party as his partner. Kazumi teases him for being a loner on Christmas time. Ishida covers up and says he's going to a party. What is lonely about that? Cope. He mentions Yu and his other friends participating in a best couple event of sorts. The students will choose the best couple of the day. Ishida says that they'll be able to help Yu if they take part too. Kazumi mentions what a soft boy Ishida is. He's a true bro to his friends. Ishida coolly takes the compliments. Kazumi isn't a fan of these things, but for Tuko's sake, and for money too, she will help out. Ishida teases her that this looks straight out of a rom-com. Kazumi quickly shoots him down. This is the part where the comedian gets dumped. Ishida thinks she's being too harsh. Kazumi bro-zones him immediately. Yu and Tuko sits in front of Nakozaki. Yu tells how he got betrayed by his girlfriend. She cheated on him with Tuko's boyfriend Tetsuya. Nakozaki holds his head. He can't believe Tetsuya would stoop so low. Tuko pulls out her receipts. She shows the screenshots of Karen and Tetsuya's messages. She has all the dirt she needs on both the backstabbers. Nakozaki is shook. He asks what he can do to help them. Tuko reveals their plan. They will expose this affair at the Christmas party. Nakozaki cannot believe them. The Christmas party is a huge event. It will cause major trouble for everyone if the secret got out. Tuko reveals that Tetsuya had been making advances on her since high school. Sweet promises that he'll never leave her or only he loves her this much. All of this, and he ended up cheating. Yu experienced the same thing. Karen was popular among the guys, but she was fully committed to him. Or that's just what he thought. Yu is madder at himself for falling for her lies. He does not wish to be the side chick. Nakazaki understands both of them. They want him to take care of the mess after the tea has been spilled to the whole school. Tuko isn't sure how Tetsuya will react. Only Yuta and Kazumi are aware of their plot. Tuko begs Nakazaki to not share this intel with other people. The cheaters will make excuses if they find out about the secret plan. They trusted Nakazaki because he is an understanding person. Nakazaki promises to keep his lips sealed. He will figure out what to do when people find out the truth. Many couples are looking forward to the big day. You will have to think hard if it's worth it. Nakazaki leaves afterwards. Tuko and Yu sit behind. Nakazaki doesn't trust them completely. It might cause serious problems with the plan. Yu comes up with something. He runs after Nakazaki. He tells him something other than what they talked about previously. A bro-to-bro moment. He couldn't say it in front of Tuko. It would break her heart. Yu has seen Tetsuya being touchy with other women too. He saw him with a senior from their circle too. Hiroto Rumi was seen hand-in-hand with him at the hotel district. Ishida will testify this information if Nakazaki doesn't believe him. Nakazaki asks for some more time. He will contact you soon. Tuko walks out of the cafe. She gives Yu his items which he forgot in a hurry. Tuko asks what happened. Yu isn't sure if the plan worked, but Nakazaki was acting weird. Nakazaki walks away from the both of them. He dials a number. Hirona picks up the call. He asks her to come over at his house later. Yu receives a call from Nakazaki at night. He gives Yu the permission to expose the cheaters. Nakazaki then spills the tea. Hirota is his girlfriend. She confirmed the information about Tetsuya. He is seeing a lot of women. One woman isn't enough for him. Bro thinks he's a Riz god. Nakazaki asks him to flame Tetsuya good. Yu asks if he's forgiven Rumi and Tetsuya. Nakazaki can't be mad at Tetsuya. No one knew he and Rumi were together. As for Rumi, he needs to think about their relationship. Rumi confessed. This happened back at the day of the university festival. Nakazaki was busy with the preparation. She didn't think he cared about her. She was crying alone on a bench when Tetsuya approached her. He raised her up good and took her away to forget her problems. This disappoints Nakazaki. Of all men, why Tetsuya? Rumi sobs and apologizes. She got carried away and slept with him. It only happened once. Nakazaki hugs her and decides to be mature about the situation. He's taken a major L. It was his fault for not noticing. With this, Nakazaki was on Yu's side. He won't be able to help openly, but Yu will take care of the mess. One thing he can't tolerate is violence. No one will hurt the other. Yu promises it will go smoothly. Nakazaki mentions something odd about Tuko from their meeting. She looked as if she was willing to forgive Tetsuya and make up with him. That can't be it, right? It's the day of the Christmas party. Yu and Karen are walking arm in arm. Karen yaps about how fancy the prize for the best couple event is. Yu isn't surprised he organized the event. Yu, Yuta, Kazumi, and Tuko have been revising the plan for the couple's event many times. They also bagged Nakazaki. Their plan is foolproof. Tuko has been speaking less and less as the days pass. It is very concerning. She might be hesitating to expose her cheating boyfriend. Karen drags Yu further ahead. Kazumi is standing on stage with a mic in hand. She announces the final event of the party. People are hitting it off. The party is a blast. People from other places have also joined. Yuri greets Yu and wishes him a Merry Christmas. He asks if she's dating the guy she is with. She says it's only temporary. She might find true love tonight. Yu thinks about the rules. Only couples can come to the event. Singles can cope by bringing an opposite gender friend. Karen says there's no use looking for love when most people are already dating. Yuri adds that many people start dating after the secret revelation. It's nothing new. Karen pushes her beliefs. No short-term couple based on whim lasts long anyway. You can't help but laugh at her Delulu. He spots Tuko in the distance. Everyone is enjoying the food. Her meal prep went well. He is happy for her. Kazumi calls Yu. She briefs the plan to him. The secret revelation event begins. In this event, people go up on stage and confess their secrets. Someone says they wet their bed. Others reveal they pretended to be women on the internet. It's all a chill, fun event. The guy Yuri brought also confesses his love to her. Everyone congratulates the lovebirds. Karen is the least interested. Instead, she stuffs her face with cake. This makes things easier for Yu. He passes a USB to Yuta. Yuta asks why Yu is sad. He's about to big brain his horrible ex. Yu tells that he's worried about Tuko. Her thoughts are no longer readable. After dumping Tetsuya, she can go date any man she lives. She's popular among the guys too. The prize for the couple's event was based on the fact that Tuko and Tetsuya will win the reward. It's best to kick a man when he's at his lowest. The time for the voting starts. Each couple is called to give a small speech to capture the hearts of the audience. Kazumi and Yuta go first. Kazumi tells Yuta to not gatekeep her from other boys. Karen and Yu are next. Karen wishes everyone a Merry Christmas and blows a kiss at the audience. The boys cheer loud. Yu takes all the L's thrown in his pride with this act. Tuko and Tetsuya go next. Tetsuya acts all high and mighty. Tuko watches him. Karen asks what's going on between Tuko and Yu. She's been staring at Yu a lot recently. It's very sus. Yu asks if that's really the case. Karen spills that she's always around the boys. She acts like a rich princess, but all she wants is the attention of other men. Karen hates such a person. Yu thinks if Karen is stupid. The voting period ends. The winners are announced. 5th place went to Karen and Yu. They won a teddy bear. This makes Karen unhappy. 3rd place is won by Yuta and Kazumi. They get a 3,000 yen library card. They cheer happily. As usual, Tetsuya and Tuko win the 1st place. The prize are tickets to a love hotel. This is the perfect trap. Kazumi stops Tetsuya from taking the tickets. Isn't very manly of him to take a girl to a hotel room on Christmas Eve. He gives the tickets to Tuko. She can use them as she pleases. It's very Sigma of Tetsuya. Kazumi asks Tuko if she wanted to say something. She grabs the mic. Yuta displays the Secret Revelations segment screen on the projector. Tuko starts to confess. Tuko is calling you on stage. Karen worries about her position. Why would Tuko call you on stage? Karen looks at you with tears in her eyes. He's been waiting for this day for so long. Everyone is shook. Tuko breaks up with Tetsuya on stage. It's the biggest L he could ever take. Yu takes the mic and does the same. He breaks up with Karen, who looks heartbroken. Tetsuya walks towards Tuko. She screams at him to stop. He has betrayed her trust. Yu steps in and protects Tuko. He says he will do the talking now. Yu spills the tea. Tetsuya was cheating on Tuko with Karen. A picture of them walking together is put on the projector. Karen quickly denies. She would never betray Yu. Yu doesn't let her cover her dirty lies. He changes the picture to a different one. It was Karen and Tetsuya kissing. Karen lies that it's the odd angle. Tuko is trying to make them break up. Yu explains he was keeping an eye on Tetsuya's house. He was hoping Karen wouldn't show up, but he was wrong. Karen keeps lying. She blames Tetsuya for forcing himself on her. She cannot do something as bad as this. Delulu is the Solulu for this girl. Yu tells her to shut her yapping. He shows her the messages she sent Tetsuya the night they made love. Everyone starts gossiping immediately. Karen's image is shattered. Negative 10,000 aura points. Karen calls him a pervert for snooping through her phone. She blames that Yu for the affair. He was seeing Tuko behind her back. She had to get back at him somehow. Kazumi steps in. She's a true girl's girl. Yu and Tuko only talk when she or Yuna were present. They haven't done anything indecent. The crowd boos at Karen. Instead of apologizing, she is shamelessly telling lies. Karen throws a fit. She kits Yu with the prized teddy bear. All girls are the same to her. They flirt with the boys openly. If she does it, it's a big crime. She leaves the party. Tuko turns to Tetsuya. She dumps him in his face. He laughs it off like a big joke. He warns her that there's no better guy for her than him. El rise for the king of Rizzlers. Tetsuya says he'll apologize for the affair with Karen. It's no big deal if a guy cheats. He just has to sometimes. Tuko screams at him. He has no idea how hurt she is. To him, this isn't a big deal. Tuko says she's disappointed in him. He deceived her, Yu and Karen. Even if she was just a fling, she is dumping him. Tetsuya sees red. Tuko belongs to him. She can't leave. He raises her hand. Yu steps in to protect her. This makes Tetsuya see red. He punches Yu in the face. Nakazaki holds Tetsuya and warns him. He's making a big idiot of himself. Tetsuya calls Tuko stupid for leaving him for a loser like Yu. He's the best match for her. She will never find anyone better. He's a loser who doesn't know how to treat women. Tuko tells him to shut up. She takes the hotel tickets from Kazumi. She will be spending her night at the hotel with Yu. Negative infinity aura for Tetsuya. Bro can never recover from this. Tetsuya cannot believe his ears. Tuko, a 10-tenths baddie, is dumping him for someone like Yu. He asks if she's joking. He won the tickets with her. He should be the one to spend the night with Tuko. Kazumi stops him and tells that he gave them both to Tuko. She has the choice to do whatever. Tetsuya doesn't believe they planned this. Tuko reminds Tetsuya that Yu is a sincere person. He is true to his feelings, all of which Tetsuya isn't. Tetsuya screams at her. She is his and belongs to him. Nakazaki holds him. He tells Tetsuya that it's over. He's so back. Tuko has moved on. He should accept this. Tetsuya asks him to step back. Nakazaki does not understand how he feels. Tetsuya tries to push Nakazaki away. Rui steps in the chaos. She tells Tetsuya to stop. He has ruined enough relationships. She asks if Karen was the only one he slept with. He didn't. Other girls step in and share their stories. He raised up a lot of other girls to sleep with him. Ruby says that her actions hurt a lot of people, but he has been ignoring the problem since the start. He needs to accept that Tuko is leaving him for his mistakes. Yu takes Tuko away. Tetsuya watches her leave with a broken heart. Tuko grabs Yu's hand. He starts blushing like a tomato. Bros in disbelief. They reach the hotel. You cannot believe he's here with a girl way out of his league. Tuko checks them in. They use the elevator to go to their room. Yu thinks that Tuko hasn't spoken since leaving the party. He has no idea what she's thinking right now. Does she really want to spend the night with a loser like him? They enter the room. Yu is blushing like crazy. He stands at the door while Tuko sits on the bed. She calls for him. Shyly, he walks up to her. She wipes the blood on his face. Tuko apologizes he got hurt because of her. He says it's no big deal. What Chad? He looks at Tuko and realizes how beautiful she is. She looks like a snack. His heart starts beating very fast. He distracts himself. Yu asks if it is okay for them to be like this. Tuko says she doesn't care. She was pretty much over him. Go Queen. Yu asked about them coming to the hotel together. Tuko blushes. She asks him to take a shower before they do anything. Yu rushes to the shower. While he is showering, he thinks about what they are about to do. He mans up. Tetsuya stole Karen from him. He will steal Tuko from Tetsuya, but he cannot sleep with her with these feelings. Yu walks out of the shower. Tuko is ready to leave. She bows to Yu and tells him she is leaving. She cannot do it with him. She agreed when she was angry, but she is not ready. She will only sleep with someone when she is married. Yu stops. Was she a virgin? Tuko reveals that she is. She was going to sleep with Tetsuya on Christmas Eve. He was looking forward to it since they started dating. It was very nice to snatch this away from him and crush his hopes. Tuko apologized to Yu for playing with his feelings. Yu smiles. is happy she was able to support him at his lowest. He thanks her for being his emotional support buddy. Tuko thanks him too. Tuko's phone rings, ruining the moment. Her father is there to pick her up. Yu asks if they can stay in touch. Tuko agrees. She will contact him again. She reminds him to leave at 10 a.m. Yu is happy he was able to help Tuko. He will man up and be worthy of dating her. He prays that she waits for him till he is truly worthy of dating her. If you like the video, please subscribe and give me a like to upload part 2.